Here we go, 5 simple ways to improve your IELTS speaking score. Hello, this is Keith from the Keith Speaking Academy, right? Now listen, when it comes to improving your IELTS speaking score, many students are, well, let's say, barking up the wrong tree. To bark up the wrong tree means to do the wrong thing to reach your goal. And I think this is partly to do with misinformation on the internet and in social media, right? So today, let me break it down to you, right? I'm going to give you 5 simple things you can do to improve your score. Throughout the video, I'll also give you some links and ideas to different resources that can really help you. But a word of warning, each step will take time and practice to reach your goal, right? So be patient. But the great thing is you can be confident that at least you are barking up the right tree. I mean that you are following a good study technique. Okay, 5 things. Let's jump into number 1. All right, number 1, practice speaking under timed exam conditions. What I mean is get a clock or a stopwatch, get some questions, press go and start answering the questions, just like a real test, right? For example, when it comes to part 2, you give yourself a minute to prepare and 2 minutes to talk answering the questions. Simple as that, right? Ideally, get a fellow student to control the time and ask you the questions like they're the examiner. If not, you can also go to my website. There's a link down below where you can find some recorded practice tests, and I will ask you the questions and you have to answer in real time. So I give you about 20 seconds for a part 1 question, maybe up to a minute for part 3 questions. Why is this good? It's great because it gives you a sense of the pressure you'll be under and the timing for answering questions. So many students have never done a mock test or a practice test, and in the real exam, they are so surprised by how fast it goes, the examiner cutting them off, because they've never practiced. So, my friend, practice speaking under timed exam conditions. Number 2 is don't memorize full answers. It's a big mistake, but so many candidates do this. They memorize their answer word by word, sentence by sentence. If you do that, you will probably be off topic. The examiner will definitely know, and your score will go down, not up. So what do you do instead? Well, practice responding to what I call surprise questions that you don't know are coming. Okay. A very, very simple way to do this is get some questions, write them down or type them down, make a list of maybe 10 questions, and then choose one at random and give your answer. Literally, you can be like, okay, tell me about the place you live. Right, the place I live is, and then you're giving your answer rather than going through the prepared questions. And a really good tip here, and I know you're not going to like this, but this is a really powerful tip, is when you're giving your answer, when you've got the question, practice answering the same question twice, but each time give a different answer. And this is really going to stop you memorizing your answer and encouraging you to build your flexibility. Remember, it's the students who build their flexibility and develop their speaking skills who get the band 7, 8, and 9. If you're on memorized answers, you're going to struggle. Not only in the IELTS speaking test, but in real life conversations later. That's it. Don't memorize, be flexible. Let's move on. Right, number 3, understand what complex structures are. If you've ever read the band descriptors for IELTS speaking, and if you haven't, you should, you'll see it says for a band 7, uses a range of complex structures with some flexibility. Notice that word flexibility. Again, complex structures, and students say to me, well, what do they mean exactly, complex structures? Well, you probably need to follow a complete course to get all the complex structures. But just to give you a flavour, let me tell you some. Complex structures could include complex tenses. So complex tenses can include, for example, the perfect tenses, like the present perfect simple, present perfect continuous, past perfect, for instance, right? Last month, I visited Dakar. Before then, I had never been to Bangladesh. I had never been to, okay, past perfect. It could include third conditionals. For instance, if I had known it was so beautiful, I would have gone years ago. Third conditional. You could have inversions. So instead of saying, if I had known it was so beautiful, inversion. Had I known it was so beautiful, I would have visited years ago. In addition to tenses, complex structures will also include complex clauses. For instance, relative clauses. Let's take an example. I visited a beautiful city which is located in the south of the country. Right? Relative clause. You could have cleft sentences, which we use for emphasis. Instead of saying, my brother convinced me to go, I say, it was my brother who convinced me to go. Nice, right? There are many, but this just gives you an idea. And then, of course, remember you want to be mixing complex and simple sentences, and you're building them up like you're building a house. And you could then get something like this. Last month, I visited Bangladesh. I went to a beautiful city which is located in the south of the country. Actually, it was a student of mine that convinced me to go. I had never been to Bangladesh before that. And to be honest, had I known it was so beautiful, I would have visited years ago. Right? Can you see that? So, you need to understand what complex sentences are, study them, learn them, and practice them. Okay, this is really key because in IELTS speaking, the use of complex sentences is vital for your grammatical score, right? Which is 25% of your total score. Great. If you want to find out more about complex structures, check out this video up here and you can learn a lot more about it. Let's press on. Number 4, work on making your vocabulary bigger and better. Of course, your vocabulary, right? It takes up 25% of your whole score. So you need to be using, again, both simple and complex vocabulary. It takes time to build up vocabulary. And I recommend the 3-step approach, right? Study, practice, and review. Again, check out this video I made recently, which will tell you about this method in more detail, right? Now, when you're practicing on your own or with classmates, push the boundaries. I mean, try out new words, try new things that maybe you're not sure about. But in the test, only use the words you're really confident with and comfortable with, okay? If you try and use difficult words you don't really understand yet in the test, you'll fail because you're already very nervous. You'll make mistakes. It won't sound natural. And remember, IELTS speaking is about sounding natural, natural conversational English. So when you're practicing with friends and students, yes, push the boundaries. Try out new things. In the test, be safe, be conservative, use what you know, okay? That's it. If you want the complete guide to IELTS vocabulary, what you should learn and how, go to my website. You can check it out. I have a guide for free. Like most things on my website. Again, there's a link in the description. You can go and get that after the video. Let's move on. And number 5, make sure you are never stuck for ideas. It's amazing, right? The number of students who come to me and say, Keith, I had my test yesterday, and in part 3, they asked me this question. I had no idea what to say. Even in my own language, I don't know what to say about that. Right, it's challenging part 3 sometimes. So how do you make sure you don't get stuck for ideas? My advice is make sure that you read and listen to a wide range of materials on the most common IELTS topics. You can get the top 20 or top 30 topics of IELTS on any IELTS website. And on my website, go to the free live lessons. You'll see lots of topics there. And there you've got information, materials, ideas, vocabulary you can practice with. I suggest you take a mixture of both study materials and authentic materials. So the study materials are the kind of PDFs I have on my website. Authentic materials are real sites, things like, TED Talks or podcasts or blogs, not for students, but for regular native English speaking people, right? Things that my dad would listen to, for example, like the BBC Radio 4 program, The Moral Maze, things like that. Again, I have on my website, there's a link below, there's a link to a PDF, which is the top 10 IELTS topics with reading and listening materials taken from across the internet. Fantastic things which I think will really help you get ideas in English and in your mother tongue, right? It's the ideas that count as well as the language. So that's it. So now you have 5 simple ways to improve your IELTS speaking score. Simple but not quick, right? Remember, improving your IELTS speaking score, it takes time and dedication. You're building your knowledge of English and activating it through practice and review. But now at least, you can be patient and you can be confident that you're barking up the right tree, right? You've got a good, solid study technique here, which is going to help you to become that confident speaker of English and so ace your IELTS speaking test. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have, please do remember to like the video and subscribe. There are lots of links down below, including the final one, which will give you this PDF. It's a summary of what I've talked about today. Lots of food for thought, right? Thank you so much. And listen, I'll see you in the next video. Take care now. Bye-bye.